to the 4 Pillars of Entrepreneurship Virtual Summit. My name is Annie Hardock, and I'm the founder of the United Networks for Growth. Today, we have Mark Black, and Mark is a heart and double lung transplant recipient turned 4-time marathon runner, a resilience expert, coach, and author. Mark helps people thrive in challenging times. His program provides the tools to transform your adversity into your advantage. Mark doesn't just teach resilience, he embodies it. His doctor informed him that his heart was failing, and without a rare and dangerous heart and double lung transplant, he would not see his 25th birthday. In 2002, Mark was fortunate that a suitable donor was found. He not only survived the surgery, but less than 3 years later, Mark became the only man in history to run a marathon with someone else's heart and lung. And Mark is now a certified speaking professional, destination held by less than 1,000 speakers in the world. He has inspired more than 150,000 people in more than 450 presentations and has worked with global brands including ExxonMobil and Mercedes-Benz, as well as many national and regional associations. Mark lived in Moncton, New Brunswick, Canada, where he spends as much time as possible with the most important people in his life, his wife, Maurice, and their 3 children. Welcome, Mark.
Thanks for having me.
Yes. Wow. That's amazing how someone with that physical condition and ran the marathon, right? The marathon is a tough one. Even if someone is healthy, it's really a difficult thing to do.
It's challenging for sure. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yes. And what caused you to think of even doing the marathon? What sparked you to do that challenge?
Yes. Yeah. So the journey through the transplant was about a year long, and from waiting to receiving the transplant and then recovery. And I knew that I would need something to sort of keep me motivated through the many kind of peaks and valleys in that journey. And before the transplant, I wasn't able to be physically active at all. I couldn't, climbing a flight of stairs was very difficult. I would get out of breath very easily. And so I thought if I could run a marathon, it was more of a symbolic thing for me. It meant that I could do pretty much anything that I wanted to physically. And so it was, both a physical challenge and a mental challenge, and it was something that was going to keep me working hard, certainly through the rehab process to get back to, not only back to where I was before the transplant, but even beyond that. And it worked. We kept me kind of driven through all of those difficulties.
And did the doctor say anything that you cannot do, cannot cry after this transplant?
Yeah, and no, I'm pretty fortunate. My doctors were very supportive of being active, and they've said really there's 2 things that you really cannot do or should not do because of the risks, and that is diving, like under deep sea diving, and skydiving. And both of the reasons, the reason for both of those things is changes in air pressure that can cause issues with your lungs. But they said, other than that, if you feel well enough to do it, then go for it. And so when I did tell them I was going to run a marathon, and they said, yeah, as long as you don't, wear yourself out to the point of exhaustion, then go ahead.
Yeah, because I think it's like when you just received your transplant, I guess you need something like a goal that you look forward to. It's that what drives you to have that motivation that you want to reach that goal, something that you look forward to waking up every day. I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think one of the secrets, if there's such a thing as a secret, to overcoming any challenge, it's to know that whatever is on the other side of that challenge is exciting, is worthwhile doing. Most of us don't actually struggle to be motivated for the things that we are excited about. We struggle with the things that are difficult because we don't think that they're worthwhile. And so if you know that the challenge is difficult, but that the reward on the other side is worth it, then the motivation to get through it is a lot easier.
Right. And you mentioned a lot about resilience. And what is resilience for you?
To me, resilience is channeling the challenges and adversities that we all face, whether in life or in business, into something constructive. So you're going to face adversity. That's a given. The question is, what do you do with that? And some people will talk about getting through it in the sense of just kind of trying to survive it, or they talk about resilience in terms of bouncing back, like somehow we hit a challenge and it knocks us down and then we get back up and we return to where we were. But I think if you examine your own experience, you'll discover that rarely happens, because we grow and we evolve and we change. And so to return to where we were is not really possible because we're not that person anymore. And so instead, the idea is to use the difficult challenges and experiences to grow in new ways, to innovate, to change, to be better and more effective in some ways than you were before. To me, that's what resilient people and that's what resilient companies do as well. They see the challenge that they're facing and they evolve in some way or they innovate in some way and they actually end up better off on the other side of that challenge.
It's like turning some like negative energy into something positive. But I thought, like, do you think the negative sometimes it give you the fuel to do what you need to do? Like negatives is not always bad. Like I don't know. I sometimes I just get more motivated or inspired to do better, but just because instead of staying status quo.
It absolutely can. If your mindset is right, then you can absolutely use the adversities to create something more positive or to be more motivated. I mean, the Tony Robbins always says that there are only two things that motivate us, and it's pleasure and pain. And we're either going to be motivated to seek pleasure or avoid pain, right? That's kind of what we're always doing. And so for some people, they're more motivated by seeking the positive thing, seeking the reward. But I think most of us, if we're honest, are more motivated to avoid pain than we are to seek something better. It's why, if you look at the statistics on how many people file their tax return within the last 48 hours before the deadline, it's like 80% or 90%. It's huge, right? The number of people who actually get their health in order and actually start to exercise and take care of themselves after they have a heart attack or they're diagnosed with diabetes or they have a stroke or whatever. Most of us we're not motivated to fix things until it becomes so painful to stay where we are that we feel like we have no choice but to take action and do something.
Yes. That's almost like a wake-up call. People just ignore their health until something happens. So I think sometimes adversity is like maybe sometimes because we ignored the red flags.
Absolutely.
Because it happened before, just that we're not aware of it or not willing to change until something really hit us hard.
Yeah, sometimes I think a lot of the time we get very small adversities that could stay small if we addressed them when they were small.
Yes.
But they're not painful enough to make us do anything about it, right? And so we ignore it and we ignore it until it blows up, and then we have no choice but to deal with it.
Right? Yes. And that's why the 4 pillars of entrepreneurship, it's a holistic approach to entrepreneurship, because I went through that journey about you're just focusing on building your business and then ignore the health, right? That's a big wake-up call for me.
Yeah, there isn't much point in having a successful, thriving business if you're not healthy enough to enjoy any of the benefits from it.
Yeah, you can't have the business and you can't have your family like or take care of anyone without health. So that's why, the 4 pillars is that health is like number one.
Makes a lot of sense
and,
to me.
And
Yep.
to me, the next thing was personal growth. That's why it's one of the pillars, right? Like you say, like when we often use the challenges to grow to something that's better than what we were before. That's I consider to be the personal growth. I think everyone to go on that journey just depends on what stage in their life that it happened to them. Right. I guess for you, physically, it started like at young age that you have that.
Yeah. So I had surgery for the first time when I was a couple of days old. So I didn't really know anything different than having health challenges. And so in some ways that was an advantage because I didn't know better or because I didn't know different, I didn't have anything to miss. I wasn't mourning the loss of an old life where I was healthy. It was just normal. It's part of my regular routine. So, but yeah, I think how we use challenge depends a lot on our mindset. And if our mindset is one of growth and of learning, then we tend to use adversity as a tool. And if our mindset is one of static, trying to preserve the status quo, then we see adversity as disrupting that and it threatens us, and we kind of try and protect ourselves from it and don't use it very well.
Right. Because do you think it is the mindset that kept people from succeeding in, being resilient? Like they give up, in the
Absolutely.
middle of it. Yeah, they say like they are very enthusiastic and say, yes, I want to achieve that goal. But after a few months it's hard to keep being motivated. So how do you get that resilience and to get you till the end? Do you need a coach, like someone that's supporting your journey? Tell us how it works for you.
I think so. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yes. I think support is a big piece of it. There's lots of data that shows that people that have a strong support network and have good relationships, friends and family, colleagues, are going to be more resilient. So if you don't have that, start to build it, right? By networking with people and getting to know people. But the other piece of it is the mindset piece. And there's a lot that goes into that. But so I teach a framework where I challenge people to first accept the things that they can't change. We have to acknowledge that there are pieces of our journey that are out of our control. And as entrepreneurs, we don't like that because we like to have control over everything. And it's hard to admit that that's not the case, but sometimes things happen that you can't control. What we can do then is focus on the things that we do have control over. And when we're using our energy correctly, we have more energy to address those things because we haven't wasted it on the things that we can't do anything about.
Right.
And then the other piece of it is we need to be really clear about where we're going and why where we're going matters to us. Mm-hmm. So I go back to a quote from Friedrich Nietzsche that I love that says, the person that has a big enough why can endure any how. So in other words, if we know the reason why we're doing what we're doing, and that reason is big enough to us and matters to us, then whatever we have to do to get there, we will do because it's meaningful enough that it's worthwhile. And so if you have to really, in many cases, take the time to analyze what that thing is and why it matters to you. Because when things get difficult, you're going to question it. Every time I ran 4 marathons, and it happened every single time that somewhere between 30 and 35 kilometers, which is a little past the 3/4 mark, the body says, why am I doing this? Like, this is painful. It's uncomfortable. I'm tired. I don't want to, I want to quit. I want to stop.
Yeah.
Why am I doing this? And if you don't have a good answer for why am I doing this, then you stop, because it doesn't make any sense to keep going, right?
So can you tell me, like, what's in your mind at that 3/4 mark? What stopped, like, what helped you to keep going? What's in your mind?
So, yeah, so for me, I had a few different things, but the biggest one was I wanted to run the marathon to honor the lives of all of the people who I met waiting for transplant. We were all waiting for transplant together, and I had, many of them passed away before a donor was found. And so I would remind myself that I was fortunate to still be alive, that I was fortunate to be healthy enough to be able to do this, and then remind myself that what my body was telling me wasn't necessarily true. There's all kinds of data that shows that when your body thinks it's done, it's really only about 50% done. And there's a whole lot more capacity there, but you have to tap into it. And that means you have to turn off the voice in your head that says this hurts and kind of just keep moving. And what would always happen is I would kind of have this dip and I would feel like I was done. And if I could push through it, I would start to kind of feel better again. And so I would, just remind myself through that valley that it was going to get better. It's going to get better. And once you finish, then you get to say you did it, and no one can ever take that away from you. And that's going to make this worth it. And so all of those things were kind of going through my head.
Yeah. Do you think some of the marathon runner, what can keep them continue at that 3/4 mark is because of the medal? How often would it be because of that medal versus what they really like truly want? Like for you, it's like something that you care about and like who had passed away. So it's a different type of reward. And do you think like medal is a big part of the marathon run, or it's just a side thing that most of the marathon runner?
Yeah,
it's not enough to keep them going.
Yeah, I don't know. It wasn't for me. I knew that. I mean, to have the finisher medal that said I did it mattered, but in that moment, at 3/4 of the way through or so, when your body is so tired and hurting, and you still have a long way to go.
Yes.
The medal was not. I was like, I can go get a medal another day. Like that was not enough for me to keep moving. So I needed to find something that was deeper than that.
Yeah, deeper. Yes. And at the same, I want to see, because you have been helping others about how to be resilient, and you have. I saw on your website you also helped youth, right? Like at age and on, but for entrepreneurs. What do you think is for their business that they have a dream, they wanted to get there, but lots of them may not have that resilience, like about 3/4, they don't see the end. They just close their business, or they just don't have that drive to continue to reach that goal. So like say, instead of medal, like say it's the money, but do you think it needs more than money to drive someone to get that business? Because they can probably easier to just get money some other way, go and work for some like corporation, do something easier. But what keep entrepreneurs going?
Yeah, 100%. Money is motivating. There's no question about that. But is it motivating enough? I don't think so. Because for most entrepreneurs anyway, the money comes later, right? The money doesn't come quickly, and it doesn't come right away.
Yes.
And usually we have to invest money and invest time for for at least some period of time before we start to get a return, and then that return usually takes time to grow. So yeah, if money is your only motivator, go get a job. You can probably make more money and certainly do it with a lot less stress if you do it that way than trying to be an entrepreneur. Yeah, I mean, I think for me, being an entrepreneur was about a couple of things. It was about the impact that I could make, that I could try and help some people, and the freedom to get to decide how much I work and when I work. Now, as it turns out, I think you probably work more as an entrepreneur than you do as an employee, but it's work that hopefully you like because you feel like it matters. And so, there's that saying that if you do something you love, you never work at all. It's still work. It's just work that you enjoy more. And again, for me, my health journey reminds me regularly how short life is. And so if you're going to spend almost half of your life probably working, then to me, I want to be spending that time doing something I love versus something that I don't.
Right. Yes. Yeah, like what kind of advice would you give if someone is right now in going through adversity, and what kind of encouragement you can get to give them that courage to be resilient, to overcome what they are going through right now?
Sure. So first, understand that it's supposed to be hard. It's supposed to be difficult. If it were easy, everybody would do it. And this is the price you pay for doing what you love to do. And if you're not willing to pay that price, that's okay, but go find a job. So the fact that it's difficult doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. Doesn't mean you're making a mistake necessarily. It just means that that's part of the entrepreneurial journey. So, because I think that trips people up. I think people start to think, oh, well, it's not supposed to be so difficult. Maybe I'm not meant for this, or maybe no. No entrepreneur succeeds without going through challenge. That's part of the journey. So understand that and decide if you're willing to deal with the discomfort and the difficulty that goes with that. And then if you are, then you need to know where you're going, and you need to know why it matters. Because the money will not be enough. It just won't be. So you need to figure out some other bigger, if your business has a mission statement or something, then maybe that's it. What is it that you're ultimately trying to achieve besides having a successful business?
Right. Yeah. For myself, it still is. It's the quality of life, right? So sometimes, people not necessarily understand the entrepreneurial mindset. That I've been an entrepreneur for 30 years, but people wonder why. Because it's not necessary, but because from the outside, they just see, well, how much money do you make, right? But they don't see the family time that I'm able to do and the freedom that I do what I love to do at the time that I want, right? I don't know how they measure that, right? It's the quality of life that I thrive for.
Absolutely.
I think sometimes people just think of the money. If with the money, then I can have the quality of life that I want. But then the problem is sometimes people get into the health issue or other issue that's not expected. So if their end goal is to make more money to get that quality of life, maybe they would never experience it or have the chance because something else come up.
Yeah, that's absolutely, yeah. I mean, how many times do you hear the story of the person who works, they're working for retirement, right? Because someday they're going to be able to retire and have time and money to go and do the things they really want to do. And then they, get sick right after retirement and never get to do that. So yeah, it's certainly, again, my health journey makes it a little easier for me, but we all need to have that perspective to understand that tomorrow is not a promise. And so that doesn't mean we live recklessly, but it does mean that we understand that each day is a gift. And if you're waiting for someday to start living the life you want to live, then you're missing a lot.
Yes. I guess being resilient, you can't say, well, I'll do that someday. That's not resilient.
No, because too often someday never comes, right? People put it off indefinitely and it never happens.
Right. Yes. So Mark, so thank you so much for being with us today. And I know that you are giving a free gift to our audience. So we will post the link. And can you tell me what that is? The free gift that you're offering?
Yeah, I think we talked about a resilience assessment. So it's a free test. It's a pre-test. Is that what we said, or did we say that? I can't remember what I told you. What did I promise?
You actually gave us the link to. It's an opt-in link, like from October 30th. I just know the link, but
yeah. So it's a resilient assessment. So it's like a little quiz, and it'll help you gauge your level of resilience now.
Ooh.
And then it will afterwards give you some tools that you can use to work on your resilience, and then you can take the test again in a month or 3 months or 6 months and see how you progress. One of the things that people don't often understand about resilience is that there are some innate factors, there are some pieces of the puzzle that you can't change. But a lot of your resilience factor comes down to practice and to skills and to mindset. And so you can develop that, you can improve it. And so the test is meant to kind of give you a baseline and then give you some tools to use so that you can improve on that.
Do you think it is something across the board in all different situations? Like say if I'm going through two different things, say in a family or in business, the resilience part might be different, like how I deal with a family issue or the business. What do you think? Is
the basics, the principles are the same, but certainly how you apply them would be different. I teach a 5-step framework that works in any situation, and it doesn't really matter what the context is. Obviously, the application changes a little bit, but the principles stay the same.
Right. Yeah, that's great. I actually learned a lot from you today.
Well, good. I'm glad.
I actually want to do that assessment test, because my son always saying, gee, look like I never give up. Like he's a real entrepreneur type of thing that just moved on to, he finished this, accomplished, like mission accomplished, and then he moved on to the next opportunity, right? But for me, it's a long-term commitment. Like I've been running a networking group for 22 years, and I have a children mental math program running for 10 years now. So I guess the mentality is different. Like he's young, like he just moved on. So what's the next opportunity as an entrepreneur?
Yeah. There's a little bit of that. Part of resilience again is also having that long-term thinking, right? Where I think today that's more challenging, and certainly young people have a bigger challenge with it because they've grown up with devices in their hands that give them instant gratification all the time.
Everything has to be.
Everything's immediate, right? So, it's extra effort on their part to really work their long-term thinking. There isn't much in their life that's happening in the long term.
Actually, yesterday's guest, he just saying, well, for young people, their long-term is this weekend. That's how long their long-term view. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So thank you for your time, Mark.
My pleasure.
All right. We'll hope to have you again sometime. All right.
All right.
Okay.